Maybe your son can teach you.
Yeah, maybe.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Gopa, Gopinath, Yamakun, Radhakun, Giri, Govinda, Ki, Vrindavan.
started? So it's 10. Okay. 6:34.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Just remember the white one is sugars. Okay. And just this.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so actually, on page 1. We can all chant this together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Andeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapara Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll be starting at chapter 6, text 34. And we can read the Sanskrit and translation in unison. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayor iva suduskaram. Translation. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it is, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. Text 35. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena Tukanteya Vairagyena Chakriyate. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. 36. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tuyatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. 37. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhaya upeta yojak chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, what is the destination of the man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? 38. Kachinno bhaya viprastas chinabram eva nashyati apratisto mahabaho vimudho brahmanapati. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man, being deviated from the path of transcendence, perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? 39. Etan me shamshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshataha tvad anya samsayasyasya chetanahyupapadyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for yourself, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gacchati. The Blessed Lord said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. 41. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga prasto vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. 42. Attava yoginam eva kule bhavati dimmatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. Or he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. Tatra, text 43, Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labate porvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuya samsidau kurunandana. On taking such a birth, he again revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. And finally, text 44. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate yavasho pisaha jignasur apiyogasya shabda brahmativartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles. Even without seeking them, such an inquisitive transcendentalist striving for yoga stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scripture. Okay, I was wrong. I think we have one more. Text 45. Prayatat nadyata manastu yogi samshuda kilbisaha aneka janma samsiras tato yati param gatim. But when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately, after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So we'll go back to text 34. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literatures, it is said, Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratam evacha buddhintu sharatim vidhi mana pragraham evacha endriyani hayanahur vishayam steshu gocharan atmendriya mano yukto bhoktityahur manishinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body. The intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. The method prescribed is Saivai Mana Krishna Pararavindayoho. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. So a couple thoughts before we go on to the next verses. This is a very nice verse. Arjuna is very easy to relate to because he's here telling Krishna that it seems almost impossible to control the mind. That the mind is just, it's like the wind, going this way, going that way, just an unstoppable force. And for a regular person to control the mind is just very, very difficult. It says, artificially, in this purport, artificially one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so. For this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. So, on the material platform, it's very easy to look at another living entity and see the body. And, this person, he's a different race from me, different gender, different species. Oh, this person lives in a different country. And on these designations, I make friends or enemies. I like this person's activities, but this other person, I'm not so wild about what he's got going on. And so the devotee he's not, as this says, he's not artificially trying to establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy. There's a picture in a book that our book distributors hand out quite often, The Science of Self-Realization, in the middle of the book, where the yogi, he's meditating and he sees the God within the heart in all living entities. He doesn't see the outward dress anymore. So the devotee is, unlike average people, he's able to look at everybody and see God within the heart. He's not discriminating by these outward distinctions. And the purport goes on to talk about that the individual is the passenger in the car of the material body. So we tend to identify with so many things that are either gross or subtle, but they're material. That I am my body, I'm big, I'm small, I'm my mind, maybe I'm really smart, I'm smarter than all these other people. Or maybe I have mental problems and I'm really hung up on this as if this is me. But this is as bad as getting in my car and, saying, I'm a rusty car, I'm a broken down truck because this is what I drive. Like, this is a temporary designation. So it's brought up that the easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and he's, incredibly merciful, coming down with this Sankirtan movement that is, the only hope in this age of Kali, when everybody is in ignorance as to what is the actual purpose of life, what are we supposed to do. So it says the easiest way is chanting Hare Krishna. And we've heard here, everyone here present, I think, but also just out there before we came, that you can't take away a bad thing from somebody without replacing it. You can't just say, no, stop doing that. You have to, like a child, you take away the thing that's bad and you give them some toy that's harmless. Give them something to replace that activity with. And so in that way, it can be very easy to refrain from bad activities if we have a higher thing to replace it with. So we'll go on to the next verse. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Purport. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind as expressed by Arjuna is accepted by the personality of Godhead, but at the same time he suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. What is it? What is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe strict rules and regulations such as placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the supersoul. Shishigornitai ki. Restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities, not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind and spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called pareshanubhuti, spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So it says in the purport that there are 9 methods of devotional service, and the foremost of those is hearing. And so that is very easy to see. We're hearing anytime we have Bhagavad Gita class. We go out to the plaza every day and we do Harinam. And so anyone out there who's fortunate enough to hear us, they're benefited by that. And that's either the beginning or the continuing of their spiritual education, as many of them have heard the holy names in past lives. And so it talks in this purport, it is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. So it is often said that this process, when applied correctly and fully, is not something that we have to wonder, is this having an effect? Just like when someone is hungry and they eat a sumptuous meal, they don't have to ask anybody, am I full? Hey, can you tell me, am I full? They are very aware that they are full and they're very satisfied. So similarly, this process is like that one has an inner understanding that he is satisfied by this. He doesn't need to go to material sources of pleasure anymore because he's making Krishna the focus. And it says, hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment of the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. So it's said that this is expert treatment. This isn't, I have some problem and, there's so many opinions out there. Somebody's bound to have the right one. I'll just walk down the road and the first person that passes me, I'll say, hey, what do you think I should do about the purpose of life? Why am I suffering? Why am I here? Why are everybody I meet? Why is everybody suffering? So this is coming down from Krishna. He says in the 4th chapter that in the beginning he spoke this science to Vivasvan. Vivasvan spoke it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So there's so many systems of knowledge, whether we call them philosophies or religions or whatever, they may be helpful to some degree, but they're connected to certain time and place and location and region. And this process is going back to the first living entity, Brahma. So sometimes, it's someone will, one of the common complaints that people have for God is, this world is so tough. This world has so much suffering. I'm a good person. I wouldn't put people into suffering if I was God. So why is God, who's almighty, putting people into suffering? And part of the problem with that is that God is not putting us into suffering. We're putting us into suffering. Like Prabhu was saying not too long ago, that it's like everybody is drowning and you're on the boat trying to throw them the life raft, and they're saying, no, drowning is very nice. I like drowning. This is great. You should drown too. It's madness. So we're the cause of we're our own worst enemy. But the other part of this is that Krishna is handing out the life raft at every second. There's never a time when he's not. He says, whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice and a rise in irreligion, O descendant of Bharat, at that time I descend myself to, I think it's reestablished principles of religion. I might be mixing two verses, but basically, Krishna's always keeping this unbroken chain of disciplic succession going. Anytime that there is an error or it's lost, he comes back to reinstate this knowledge. So we can go on to the next verse. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Similarly, yoga practice without material control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga practice may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, the mind must be controlled by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor, but a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. And text 37. Arjuna said, "What is the destination of the man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?" Purport. The path of self-realization or mysticism is described in the Bhagavad Gita. The basic principle of self-realization is knowledge that the living entity is not this material body, but that he is different from it, and that his happiness is in eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. These are transcendental beyond both body and mind. Self-realization is sought by the path of knowledge, the practice of the eightfold system, or by bhakti yoga. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can reestablish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Following any of the above-mentioned three methods, one is sure to reach the supreme goal sooner or later. This was asserted by the Lord in the second chapter. Even a little endeavor on the transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. Out of these three methods, the path of bhakti yoga is especially suitable for this age because it is the most direct method of God realization. To be doubly assured, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to confirm his former statement. One may sincerely accept the path of self-realization, but the process of cultivation of knowledge and the practice of the eightfold yoga system are generally very difficult for this age. Therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on illusory energy. Consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. A conditioned soul is already allured by the modes of material energy. And there's every chance of being allured again, even while performing transcendental disciplines. This is called yogachaliti manasaha, deviation from the transcendental path. Arjuna is inquisitive to know the results of deviation from the path of self-realization. So Arjuna is asking a very intelligent question that you could see anybody asking if they were being presented with this knowledge that he's already asked, or he's already brought up that the mind is almost impossible to control. It's like the wind. And so the next question that would logically go with that is, what happens to a person who may take up this process, however much, a little more than that, but not completely? What is the result of this person, or the destination, he says, who he takes it up, but due to worldly mindedness, he doesn't stick with it. And Krishna is going to answer soon in the upcoming verses. But it's mentioned that bhakti yoga is the most direct method. So there are other methods for self-realization that are not as effective, and in terms of our limited positions, they require a much more advanced state of knowledge. One has to know what he's doing, whereas in bhakti yoga, none of us, when we come to the temple, know anything. We're like, what's that? What are they doing over there? They're doing some sort of thing with a flame, and I think they're like repeating something, and look, they're eating some nice foodstuffs, but we're just looking at it from the outside and we have no knowledge. But by taking up this process, Krishna is eventually going to tell Arjuna that any progress that he makes is permanent. So like, we're out on Harinam and we're distributing the holy names, and the people that hear us are so fortunate. If they are, nice enough to chant with us, and essentially they engage in the kirtan themselves, that's wonderful. But even if they look over and say, oh, what are those guys doing? That's crazy. I wish they'd go away. The fact that they heard the holy names means they are benefited from it. And I forgot to mention this point, but I'm not 100% sure. In one of these last purports, it pointed out the importance of humility. And I'm stealing someone else's thought from not too long ago, but we all have a really hard time with humility. We look at this process that we're doing, and it's very easy to look at it as an impersonal process. We're like, okay, wake up at 4, check. Regulative principles, check. Do my obeisances, say Hare Bol, 16 rounds, Krishna, Krishna, Ram, Ram, And so, person was explaining to I and Bhakta Joseph that when we're chanting the holy names, it's like we're at Krishna's feet. We're begging, like, I can't get out of this material world. I can't do it on my own. Please, please, please give me devotional service. Please help me, Krishna. And so for us to every morning chant our 16 rounds, and we can, after 2 hours of chanting, which most of that was spent, with thoughts coming in that have nothing to do with Krishna, and then trying to, oh, no, I need to think about Krishna. After that 2 hours of chanting is done, it's very easy to go, okay, now I'm done with my chanting. Hare Bol, I can go the rest of my day. I can do the activities I actually want to do. And where's the humility in that? We still need Krishna's help the rest of the day. It's not just for a small portion of the day. So just something I thought was nice to think about. So go ahead to the next verse. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man, being deviated from the path of transcendence, perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport. There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He's like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmana Pati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who's manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore one who surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many, many births. Bahunam janmanam ante. Therefore, the supermost of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga, or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. Text 39. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for yourself, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Purport. Krishna is the perfect knower of past, present, and future. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that all living entities exist individually in the past, that they exist now in the present, and that they continue to retain individual identity in the future, even after liberation from the material entanglement. So he's already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. Now Arjuna wants to know the future of the unsuccessful transcendentalist. No one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so-called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna is the final and complete answer to all doubts, because he knows past, present, and future perfectly, but no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna-conscious devotees alone can know what is what. Text 40. The Blessed Lord said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17, Sri Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows. Tyaktva sadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajan apako tapatet tato yadi yatra kvava badramabudamusyakim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reactions of not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction of not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is lowborn in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section, and those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because, enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and thus gradually rise to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those Those who are then following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely 1, the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity; 2, those who are trying to find out the ultimate liberation from material existence; and 3, those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into 2 classes: those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. Because the eightfold yoga system is directed toward the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who's trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. And text 41, the unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So, Krishna says that the transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so in the last text that we read, the purport, it says, in the middle of the purport, it says, the Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction of not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is lowborn in the next life. So, my question is, my real curiosity is whether we go back, whether we become animals in our next life if we don't do all our duties properly. But but now I just want to ask, sorry, my eyes are blurring right now, hold on. So why does a person become responsible for not properly executing prescribed duties?
Well, this is my limited understanding of this, but we're aspiring to be fully surrendered to Krishna, and for us in our position, there's living entities in the spiritual world that's all they've ever done. So that's like, yeah, that's what I do every day. That's easy. What are you talking about? But for us, that's like incredibly difficult because of our long association with the material world, that we have become attached with false sources of happiness. And so we're like, what? You want me to give up? Indra was a pig after he fell down. And when they needed Indra to come back and be Indra, they came back to him and said, oh, come on, we need you. And he said, no. I've got some really nice food, got my wife, my family, leave me alone. And so no matter how pathetic or miserable our situation is, we're really attached to it. And so we come to the temple And we know in the back of our head, I'm here to serve Krishna. This is the purpose of life. I'm going for the higher things. But the day-to-day feeling maybe, oh man, I never get enough sleep because I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. Maybe I should go back to just, But we may not even say, I want to not do Krishna consciousness. But we may say, well, if I was a devotee away from the temple, I'd have a little more control over my... And what in reality we're saying is, maybe I won't serve fully. Maybe I'll walk it back just a little bit. So... this is a process that it requires that we surrender fully. In the same breath, though, I think what's being given attention in this purport is that, because this is said somewhere else, I think, in the same purport, but for one who takes up material activities, he may execute them perfectly. We can imagine what those, any type of material activities. If Krishna's not there to execute material activities, to give all this energy and to be like, wow, I'm so accomplished, I did the thing I wanted, it results in nothing at the end of the day. Not only in this life is it false happiness, it doesn't give real satisfaction, but it has no eternal benefit. So we can understand that, Krishna is saying the soul is eternal. And we have experienced that we existed today and we existed yesterday. We existed when we were in the 15-year-old body, 2-year-old body, and we may not have memory of it, but, based on the mother and father's authority and science, we know we were in the womb. We were living when we were in the womb. So the living entity, he just keeps going on and on and on. There's no proof of his coming into existence. I'm saying the soul, not the body, or his leaving existence. And so an intelligent person says, what can I do that helps me eternally, not just on a day-to-day basis? And even then, it's not actually helping me in a day-to-day basis. It's the perception that if I make the material body more comfortable, that's what I view as success. An intelligent person doesn't find that to be real success. But in Krishna consciousness, those things that, when we're covered over, we're trying to get, everything's there in the spiritual world. We can't, always understand how. Like my Bhakti leader told me, everything's there. Skateboards are there. I can't rationalize how are people skateboarding in a way that's service to Krishna. But everything that we can enjoy here is there in the spiritual world in a different way. So, some of us really like to eat food, but there's no meaning, there's no enjoyment of food if it's not offered to Krishna. And some of us, have a little bit of understanding of this, that like even in the material conception of things, whether I have a cat or a family member or some personality I look up to, it could even be someone I don't know very well, the greatest appreciation of things in the material world still is personalities. And so, we came from the material world where, I play video games, or I'm a car guy, or I'm into martial arts, and based upon these activities, the other people that do these, we become friends with these people. But in spiritual life, the other people who are doing spiritual things, they become sources of strength and, help me further in what I'm doing. So I'm kind of rambling, but did that kind of answer your question? It's okay if it didn't.
Yeah, I think you did, but yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
All right.
So it's time to end class now?
Gita